Boom.
All right, everybody. We're doing it. We're live. Happy Wednesday. It's been a long time, and it's not like I don't want to do these. I really like doing them. It's just trying to get Rob is a bit of a challenge. And what's funny is when he gets on, he'll say it's all me. But as we can see, he's not here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the blame for that one because I told him 7 his time, and I didn't realize that they're 2 hours behind in Arizona. So that's part of the challenge, is getting the timing lined up to do these. So
yeah, I had no clue he was in Pacific time either, but it is what it is.
Well, what's funny is it's Arizona time. It never changes. So half the year it's 2 hours behind, then it's 1 hour behind.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. Arizona time is rad. So yeah. But either way, hopefully he'll get it sorted out and we'll get him in there. Jeff Jackson, MTB. Lisa Thibodeau, I believe is how you pronounce that. So that's
Thibodeau,
cool. We got some people getting on here to watch. So
yeah, we're up to 15. Not bad.
You prompted me, dude. When I got on your stream there, whatever it was last week.
Yeah, we had fun.
We did, dude. It gets me fired up because it's still hard for me to believe that people want to watch this and listen and ask questions. Like I just don't understand sometimes. And so it's cool. Miguel, Rob will join us soon. Don't worry. And I hope it's soon because there's a couple things that I want to talk about.
Oh yeah.
That I think are very valuable. And it's, while he's not on here, I'll tell you, and this is more for everybody watching because you and I have talked about this. The guy's a wealth of information. He's amazing at breaking down bikes, their engineering, and how that manifests on the trail and what that means for so many different riders. And that's not something that I am equipped to do. I think I can ride at a pretty high level, but I can't break it down like he can.
Yeah, I think he's kind of like a special breed because he has a lot of knowledge that bleeds over from, like, I guess, the automotive industry. I notice he gets involved with like car builds and stuff. And his understanding of suspension is absolutely immense. When he was able to break down some things to me when we met last time I was in Bentonville, my mind was kind of like,
yeah,
he's very, very keen.
That's because his first job was building suspension.
There you go.
So
that explains everything.
A company called Works Performance, and he built a lot of suspension, and they built it like. They worked with race teams and they built the suspension that those people needed. And so he has a really intimate understanding of what's happening inside. And he also has a great understanding of what the inputs do and what sort of outputs they'll get you.
Right.
And that's not something that everybody has. And so that's one thing in particular. But I think for him, it goes a little bit further than that because there are things that are empiricals, like wheelbase. Bikes, a certain length wheelbase is going to be hard for a lot of people to manage. And it doesn't matter what the reach is. The head angle is certainly going to come into play. And so that's something that he and I are going to talk about. But it's funny because people don't always think about those things. They hop from one bike to the next and they figure, oh yeah, I'm a good rider. I'll sort it out. Or if things aren't working, they sometimes go back to, oh, it's the bike. And what they don't understand is maybe you need to make some changes in what you're doing to let the bike shine. And that's something that not everybody thinks about. So
yeah, I think one of the most valuable bits of information that y'all shed upon me when I came up for the ride series is when you said that if you're giving your bike bad inputs, then you can't make judgments on the bike based on that. Like, remember how I told you I kept going OTB? Well, I was like, oh, well, it must be my rear shock. I'm just going to slow the rebound down and I'm going to stop going over the bars. But it was me being too far back, overloading the suspension, bad input, bad result, not the bike's fault or the bike settings. So.
Yeah, that's a prime one that people just don't understand. And, when somebody points that out, it's like turning. There's so many people that come to the ride series and they're having issues in turns. They're washing out. And so when we simply explain to them, you probably don't have enough weight forward. So yeah, that's a product of not being centered over the bike, but what sort of bike are you riding?
Right.
How long is it? If you got a long bike and you're shortening the reach with a really short stem, like a 35 mil stem, and maybe it has a 65-degree head tube angle, you're pulling your weight way back. So unless you're actively getting out over the front of the bike, it's not going to work. So yeah, and those are things that he'll articulate. The two examples I think are good. So we'll wait for him a couple more minutes, and Miguel had a question over here talking about articulating on suspension and Cushcore. What's funny is, a lot of people talk about Cushcore and its advantages in protecting from flats. I don't care at all about protection from flats. That's the last thing on my mind. Cushcore's tagline is suspension for your tire. And I think that's what a lot of people need to kind of frame it up in. It's a suspension, it's a damping element, but it's also a handling element. So like a double down with a Cushcore, that's gnarly. And I don't know, rarely would I think about running a double down with a Cushcore. And again, Rob can speak a little bit more on this, but yeah, double down with Cushcore is going to feel pretty harsh just because double downs feel harsh. They have very stiff sidewalls. And I think trying to balance, like I love an EXO, maybe an EXO plus with my Cushcore. And now I'm running it with the equivalent of an EXO in the Specialized. So the grid trail casing, and that seems to work really well. But again, you got to understand what it's there for. Right. I talk to so many people who they'll just run it in the rear and not in the front. And I think that's a big disadvantage because what you get advantage-wise from a handling standpoint, you want that up front as well. But if you're not taking the time to figure out what the pressures can be, you're not maximizing it. Like so many people I talk to, they drop 2-3 pounds maybe. You got to keep dropping down more and more till you find that optimum pressure to run. And the challenge is it's different. So like for me, when I ride with something on Cushcore, if I'm running an optimum tire pressure, it's going to feel awkward until I load into it enough where it ramps up. So that small window of time, you have to get used to that feeling and understand it's not you losing grip. It's you coming through and getting the tire to dampen and ramp up. And that takes some time. That's a different thing.
So for example, because I am curious, what pressure settings are you running when you're running Cushcore? Are you below 20? Like, are you like super low or where are you at?
Check this out, dude. Normally, no. Like, so I would run before Cushcore with a 2.5 Maxxis Minion DHF, 28 front, 30 rear, like roughly, give or take. When I started running Cushcore in that same setup, so a 30 mil internal hoop, 2.5 Maxxis Minion DHF. I did the Cushcore Pro. I went to 20 front, 25 rear.
Wow.
So I dropped really low. Yeah, a huge difference. And raced a whole BME series and had zero issues. And then when we were in Windrock, Rob dropped it down to 18 front, 22 rear.
Yeah, that's bonkers. That's the kind of pressure that my wife's running, without inserts.
Yeah.
She's 120 pounds.
Well, and again, dude, that made sense there. Like, yeah, Jeff Jackson's running 23 in the rear and 21 in the front. He weighs 240.
240, yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Maybe I got to try this stuff. I still haven't given the Cushcore a try. I'm very afraid of the tire mounting process, but I guess maybe it's worth a shot.
It's not bad. If you watch, Rob's got a couple videos. It's really not bad if you do what they say. Yeah. I can tell you, all things being equal, it's been a little bit more difficult with Specialized tires for me.
Yeah.
But with the Maxxis tires, it's really easy. I'm going to warn you though, dude, it's a game changer. It's over. Once you do it, it's nearly impossible to ride without them. That's how much of a benefit it is.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't offend me. I think it's worth a shot. I might try that this year if I can.
Yeah. Grant, he said, so it's a volume spacer for your tire. That's the way I look at it. It is a volume spacer for your tire. And so different sizes have different effects. Like I have the Cushcore XC that I run in a couple of my bikes, and it's not an equal tire pressure because the Cushcore XC is smaller. So it's taking up less volume. So I'm running a little bit more tire pressure because it's also a narrower rim profile. So those are things that, again, you need to do your due diligence and figure out what pressures work best. Like I can tell you, if I'm going on a big XC ride, I'm going to run lower pressure than if I'm just going to go cruise around and hit some jumps. If I'm going to go hit some jumps, I'm going to run probably 2 PSI higher, both front and rear, because I'm hitting some really groomed trail that's like a giant RC car track. And I when I'm side loading, like, dude, the other day I was coming through just having fun where those super tight turns are at All American, where you drop out right next to the pavement and you hit that jump thing. And I came in and I had the XC set up, dude, and I buried the front and just burped it and fell in front of like 20 people. It was awesome. Yeah. It was like, dude, Rich just fell.
Dude, I'm telling you, there's something about that. Like whenever you do fall, at least in the Bentonville area, because they have all that sidewalk infrastructure, there's always going to be a crowd. When I went over the bars that one time, I'm All American, like right after that turning section where that first table is, crowd of 20, everybody, ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Very embarrassing.
That's one of the most challenging things here. Trying to become a better rider and work on technique. You're just surrounded by people, and everybody just wants to go more and more and more. Oh, wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen. I see a Rob Drew.
Hey,
I think he's ready.
Is there a chance?
Ladies and gentlemen,
what's up,
Rob? A little bit of technical difficulty, but we got it. My IT department handled it.
It's wonderful news.
Welcome, Rob.
Hello.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Good. I can. If there's any feedback, you might have to put in some headphones, I think. So,
if there's any awkward looping going on.
Awkward. All right, so we got you in. We've been talking about you for a little bit. So let's do this. Let's get Jared. Give a quick description of who you are and what Cure Cycling is and kind of how we met, so everybody knows.
Yeah, fantastic. So I'll tell everybody real quick. Cure Cycling started off as a concept where I was going to start working on bikes mobile, and that's where the name Cure Cycling kind of comes in, but it also had layers to it. I was working a very toxic 9-to-5, probably the worst job of my life. So this endeavor, in essence, was supposed to be a cure for me to get away from all of that. So it's got a double meaning, but it is evolving now. Now that I'm starting to create content, we do donate money towards nonprofits for depression and anxiety. So we're working towards cures for others through our favorite hobby of mountain biking. And as far as how I met Rich, he was actually one of the content creators that inspired me to do this. So it's honestly pretty wild that I'm here in front of you guys tonight. So I'm really honored. But yeah, one time I was out in Bentonville having a vacation. I saw his truck outside a press room and I just shot him a DM. I was like, yo, Rich, I see your truck come outside. I want to take a selfie. And he's like, I'm coming. It was awesome. He spent like 15 minutes.
Selfie.
Yeah.
It was epic.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, it's awesome. Because I remember that day you asked me, man, do you have any tips like for me in regards to what I can do and how I can grow my channel? And I just thought it was funny that you were asking me because I didn't know what I was doing. I still kind of don't, but it's exciting.
Now I'm helping you a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, dude. And it's exciting to see where you're going with it. And
I appreciate it,
man. I appreciate what you're doing in regards to trying to help other people because
we hung out last time I was out there, didn't we?
Yeah,
we did. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So when you were talking about Jared, I didn't correlate. It was him.
Yeah, of course.
It's me.
My bad.
So yeah, that's good. Yeah. Now everybody knows. So we're not, Rob, you're not going to get to talk about BME or anything like that. We gotta jump in to these topics. And
cool.
the first topic,
spill the beans on our recap. It's coming.
Okay, yeah. So this first topic is something that we've been talking about for a long time. And I think it's something that kind of paints a bigger picture. And that's part of why Jared is on here. And you and I talked about it this morning. And it's based around a Cascade link. And so we got the Levo SL. We were in the Levo SL Facebook group. And one thing that was talked about a lot was the Cascade link and how awesome it was. And I sent you a link. You got on, you read their marketing propaganda, and you hit buy now.
I was like, sold.
So they got you.
And it changed my life.
And so you got it, and you put it on the bike. And
first what I did was I filmed an unboxing with the plans to do a full review once I put it on the bike and loved it as much as everyone said I would. So, I made an investment with plans to do a full review on the product. Then I put it on the bike, and then I went out and rode it. And I said, I hate this bike. I don't want to ride it anymore, which was ironic because I loved that bike. It was just a thing where I was chasing a tuning problem, and it's almost like their marketing department was listening to me and my frustration. And then they on their website described a solution to all my, it basically says all your wildest dreams will come true. And so I was like, cool. I bought it. And my experience was that nothing that it said was true. Nothing that it said on the website about the product was true. It said it doesn't change the ride height. It doesn't change. Basically said it doesn't change anything, but it solves every problem. In so much. And so I rode the bike, and it just was not right. And I messed with it. So Rich, we talked about when I first got it, it was in the low position. I switched it to the high position. I liked it much better that way. Well, when I was riding it with the Cascade link, it just was really high in the back, and I felt like my dropper was broken. So I stopped on like my second ride and put it in the low position then, which helped a little bit, but it still wasn't right. And then after about 4 rides, I came back and I put the stock link back on and immediately noticed the bike was sitting substantially lower. So I measured it. Basically, if you draw an imaginary line down the top tube to the axle, I measured it at that point, and the Cascade link raised the back of the bike 1 inch. And so that was shocking to me because that's not I can't imagine a circumstance where on that bike it would be better, which it wasn't. So I took it off, I cleaned it up, I sent it back and got my money back. And I was so disappointed. I didn't really know how to approach a review. I'm not interested in slamming a company. The product was beautiful. The manufacturing was fantastic. It was a very high quality piece. It installed easily. It fit nice. Right. It just changes the bike drastically.
So just give a little bit more insight. It changes the bike drastically. Where did you notice the most that it changed the bike, and how did it affect your riding?
Well, the problem I was having was I was blowing through the stroke. And so what they said was their link makes it more progressive to eliminate that. Well, I didn't really understand how that could be, but they moved the pickup point to the shock so far. They made so many changes to the kinematics that it completely changed the way the bike behaved. And I think Specialized did a great job with it. I just needed more ramp in the shock, and really that problem was solved by getting the right spacer.
Right.
So all along, I think that's all I needed. But my position is, you take a company like Specialized with their engineering staff, they're not knuckleheads. I mean, those guys know what they're doing, and they make good bikes. They have for a long time. And to think that you can take a critical component of that system, that proven system, that Horst link proven system, it's been around so long, it's open source now. There isn't even a patent on it any longer. So to think that you can just change that and improve it, I think is a stretch. And although I've only used the product on that particular model, I've talked with people who have used it on other bikes and not been, good riders who kind of experienced the same thing I did. So it brings me back to the fact, what are all these people who are raving about it? What's their riding level? What are their goals? What are they seeing? And what was the problem they were trying to solve when they bought this part? Like, I had a specific problem I was trying to solve, and their marketing said that it would solve my problem, and it absolutely didn't.
Right.
So then let me ask you this.
Actually, you know what? Let me take that back. That was a false statement. I shouldn't say it didn't solve that problem. It stopped the bike from bottoming out, but it handled so bad that I don't think I was riding it fast enough to bottom it out. So.
Okay, so then let's talk about the specific scenario that we outlined this morning. You made a response in a group of people.
Yeah.
And you felt bad about that group. Please explain what the group was and what your response.
I felt bad about my comment because, I'm a condescending jerk. And
yes.
I can make a pretty straight point, a matter of fact point, but I've always got to follow it up with just something that needles a bit.
You got to twist the knife. It's not enough to stick the knife in it.
I can't help it.
So then what was the group you made the comment in? It's a group of what?
A group of YouTube guys.
Okay. Stop right there. It's a group of YouTube guys, which we're not going to get into what that means. If I Googled any of those guys, would the Google result show me a pedigree of riding at a high level?
I don't know, because I don't know all these guys. I just got included in this group.
Okay, then hang on. Let me ask you this.
It's an Instagram chat group. I got included in it. One of the guy who included me, I know he's a cool dude. And actually, what triggered this is he made a comment about the Cascade link before he bought it, and so I have been dormant on this thing, just seeing the thread, and I've not interjected myself. But he brought up the Cascade link, so I said something about it. I gave him my advice. He ignored my advice. He bought the Cascade link, and then he came on there and said how great it was. And I was just like, what am I missing here? And so I started inquiring, and then other guys in the group jumped on and said the great results they've had. And so I started asking, what problem were you trying to solve with this part?
Stop whacking the table.
And how did it solve the problem? And I just kept getting the answers I kept getting were like these guys regurgitating Cascade's marketing material. And that's not what I'm after. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to know specifically, why did they choose to buy this part? What was the problem they were trying to solve by buying it?
So I think what we're getting at is, and I'll ask you the blunt question, overwhelmingly, people, especially in the Levo SL Facebook group, talk about how great the Cascade link is.
Yes.
Are they right, or are you right?
Well, for me, I'm right. For me, I'm right. I mean,
okay. So
that's what I'm saying. I don't. The comment I finished with in that thread was, I think I could put water in all your tires and you wouldn't know the difference.
Okay. So, and that's great. Now, Lance Berg says, do bikes parts like that show up on average riders, or is it high level riders like you guys that even notice? What's my nickname, dude? What do you call me?
Cold Trickle.
Why?
I'll put that link on your bike, you'd ride it and not know the difference.
Exactly. So, Lance, what I can tell you is, a lot of high level riders will pick up on it, but not a lot of high level riders are making YouTube videos first and foremost, because they're out riding at a high level, and most of them
getting paid to ride bikes.
What's that?
They're getting paid to ride bikes, not talk on the internet.
Yeah, but YouTubers are now getting paid to ride bikes. Jared gets paid to ride bikes.
No, they're getting paid to talk on the internet about riding bikes.
Okay, and so what I'm trying to get at is, that's now becoming the new go-to source. And if I do a Google search on the Cascade link, I'm going to see all these YouTube videos that talk about how great the Cascade link is. But if you made a video, your video would say otherwise. And what I come back to is, if I'm that rational viewer, I'm going to look at and I'm going to Google everybody's name, because I want to know, what's the history? This person's telling me that the bike performs really well. So I want to know, okay, I mean, what's the basis?
And this guy says it's bad. Who is this
guy? What's their basis for saying that? Are you a good bike rider, Rob?
I like to think I am.
Why? Well, how can you substantiate that? Substantiate that you're a good bike rider.
When I compete against my peers, I usually do good.
Well, okay.
When I ride with fast people, I can keep up with them.
What are your credentials? Come on.
Two-time BME Masters champion, former professional motocross racer, main event winner at Mickey Thompson's, rookie of the year, my first.
Yeah, you can stop. You can stop there. Hey, what was one of your first jobs?
I worked at a place called Works Performance Suspension, building suspension. for motorcycles.
So Jared, I want you to weigh on this for like 2 or 3 minutes and give me your take, because you are in this space and you're somebody that is progressing as a rider. And I want to know what you think about this scenario. Like, I know how I feel because I trust Rob. And you notice I never got a Cascade link. I saw it and people were talking about it. I sent it to him.
So
you saved $430.
This is what I imagine a lot of it is. There's a thing called confirmation bias. And when you spend $300 on a part,
it's
regardless,
good.
it's good. It's good. It's got to be good. You know, I spent my money. It's gonna be good. And I think the allure of the part is another heavy draw. I mean, it's beautiful, man. Like the machining, the CNC machining on those parts.
I was sad to take it off my bike, quite frankly. It looked beautiful.
They're gorgeous. Yeah, it's a gorgeous part. They're expensive. There's a lot of prestige to it. And unfortunately, marketing is just so strong. People see big numbers and they automatically assume it's better. You know, you see this just like the head tube angles. We've been through this discussion before. It's like, oh, it's slacker. It's got to be better. It's 63 degrees now. Not necessarily. You know, with every give, there's a take. And I did some research on Cascade because I knew we were talking about this tonight. And it says that it increases progressivity by 70%. That's a massive number. So if they're giving you all this, then what are they taking away?
He started telling me these percentages, and I'm thinking to myself, how exactly did you determine these percentages for progression? All he was doing was telling me what the website said that it would do.
Right.
And so that was encouraging to me because,
hey, 70% of the time, it works every time.
Right all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the performance of the part because I haven't tried it, but I know that there are there are some companies that say, here, we're going to send you this part, review it. And like, as a content creator, you are going to want to try to speak on its merits and not hammer the negatives too bad because they're sending it to you. You know.
So, I had a conversation with a significant individual at a bike company that I will not name, and Cascade makes components for their bike, and so they reached out to Cascade and said, "Hey, can you send us those so that we can basically test them here to ensure that our customers who use them aren't voiding their warranty?" And they said no. Cascade said no, we won't.
Wow.
And that surprised me. So in this particular instance, if the manufacturer can prove that you had those components on your bike and you break it, they're not going to stand behind the warranty.
So AJ makes a comment. Yeah, AJ makes a comment. That's why when I look at reviews, if it's hands-on riding, then I'll trust it more than someone showing it standing against a wall. AJ, dude, that's literally why I started doing reviews. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not the best guy to do reviews because I don't have the engineering background and I'm not that in tune with the bike. Like I started watching these reviews and I'm listening to these people talk and I'm thinking, oh my God, like I got to Google these people because they've had to have won something. Like what they're saying, they're so in tune with the bike and all these different things. And then you get a chance to see them ride and they're horrible. Like I'm not trying to be mean, but a good rider is a good rider. And
well, one thing that this guy told me was I PR'd these trails when I put it on there. And so the questions I wanted to ask were, what's the segment so that I can go to Strava and look at it? And were you the 2,575th guy? And now you're the 2,432nd guy? Or, I mean, are you in the top 10? Do you have any KOMs in your zone where you ride? What level of rider are you?
Right.
Yeah, just because that person PR
anybody, and I don't want to be a jerk. It's frustrating to me when I have an experience with something. I think that I have vetted it thoroughly, and I try to share my experience with people to save them from a negative outcome, and it's like it goes in one ear and out the other.
Wow. Will you repeat that to yourself over and over again? Because that's why you need to make more content. So that is a perfect segue into the next topic that we want to talk about. And the next topic that we want to talk about is the Specialized Enduro. And I'll preface this with, I have an amazing relationship with Specialized. Everybody who's watching, anybody who follows me will understand that. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that I have a lot of Specialized bikes. they make great bikes, and
so good that I bought them.
Yeah, and by all accounts, the Enduro is a great bike.
Mm-hmm.
I got an Enduro. I rode it once at Winter Park, and quite frankly, felt like the bike was laughing at me, saying, "Whenever you're ready to actually ride, we're here for you." And I couldn't. The bike wanted to go way faster than I was prepared to go. And I got back from Winter Park, didn't ride it. You took it. You had a chance to ride it.
Why did I take it? Why did I take it? Because I hopped on. I'm an amateur manualer. I hopped on it at your house and manualed it all the way down the street.
You did. You did.
Dude, this is good.
That's the
confirmation bias, the Enduro. Yeah.
Badass looking bike.
It's a great looking bike, dude. 170, 170. I mean, it's beautiful. And it was really fun to ride at Winter Park. Kind of scary. Like there was a lot of weird things happening. Mm-hmm. And so Rob took it. What was your experience, Rob?
So let me preface by saying that the trails here where I live, the trails that I ride, I know them very well. And on every trail I ride, I have cues. I have marks that I key off of to make my moves, where I enter a turn, where I set up a double up. And when I was on that bike, it's so big and so long, I would initiate a compression move to do a double up. And before I even compressed the bike to resistance, I had passed the obstacle. Thankfully, the bike is so big, it steamrolled right over it. But on several occasions, I had some close calls. I didn't get, the bike was able to get me out of trouble. But what I realized quickly was I would have to reset my whole riding style on every trail to adapt to this bike. And this bike is different than every other bike I have. And that just wasn't something that I thought was a good move for me, because when I had my bad crash in 2019, that's how it happened. I went from one bike to another and didn't spend enough time acclimating to it. And I made a move that I timed off of the previous bike, and it proved nearly fatal for me.
So I think that's a great point. It has nothing to do with the capability of the bike.
It's not that the bike is likely fantastic. And if it was the only bike I had and all that I rode, I would probably love it. The problem is it's so different than everything else Specialized offers. Yeah. And I love the other bikes. I'm not really interested in learning that bike because I'm preoccupied loving the other bikes.
So I think hopefully that makes a point. And I'll have you talk a little bit when you got the first 29 Firebird.
Yeah.
Was a similar scenario, right?
Correct.
How did you feel the first two times you rode the bike?
The first time riding it, and you'll like this story. I picked up Rich's bike and mine. So I had them both at the house, and Rich was chomping at the bit to get my feedback. And the first time I rode the bike, I was coming off of a 27.5 bike, and it was so long and so different. I told him, honestly, riding that bike was like working at a job I want to quit. I'm like, I hate that bike. It's terrible. And what was wrong was the bike was arriving at obstacles before I was prepared for it to get there. And it was completely frustrating me every inch of the trail. I couldn't adjust. And so I brought it back and I made some changes. And then the next ride out, it was better. And by the third ride, I called Rich back and I said, dude, this thing is amazing.
And so what did we do? Like, what was one of the big changes that you made that I made?
And this goes right back to what he said earlier. I put an angle set in it and took 3/4 of a degree of slackness out to shorten the wheelbase and quicken the steering. Because I do a lot of technical climbing, and a bike with a 63-degree head angle is a real headache to ride slow technical climbing.
You know, it had a 63?
Oh yeah, it was gnarly, and
that bike didn't have it. I don't think that bike had a 63-degree head.
No, dude, it was 64.5.
I'm just saying,
it's pretty slack.
Super slack bikes are challenging in low speed technical stuff in my experience.
Yeah, it's like a chopper,
dude, very much. And so we sized down to mediums. We sized down, put an angled angled cup set, and then rode 55mm stems. And so that got the bike reach-wise where we wanted it and got enough weight over the front, because even with that angled cup set, the bike was still very slack.
Yeah,
Real quick, Rich, I don't know if you meant to click Lance's blurb.
I did mean to. Check that out. You thought it was an accident, but dude, I'm
It's
owning.
sitting there.
I'm owning StreamYard. Well, I didn't want to block Rob. So yeah, Lance. Here's why I highlighted that. Is that what you call it? What's the proper way? Highlight.
Yeah, that's great. Highlight. Yeah. Let's go with that.
I highlighted it because he says he likes buying bike parts, and sometimes he gets caught up in the hype without the research. Anything to be a little better. I get it. But part of what I've tried to do, especially with YouTube and riding bikes, anytime I get a bike, I'm aiming for like mid-level at best. You know, I want a mid-level bike like Fazzari. Last year when Fazzari was going to send me the Delano Peak before it was out, I was talking to their product engineer, and he said, dude, we have this build with, Fox this and this and that. And I said, dude, what's the most cost-effective build? And he said, $3,500. I said, you guys have a carbon fiber trail bike for $3,500? He said, yeah. I said, send it. He goes, you want to know what it's spec'd with? Like, I don't know if you're going to want it. I said, yeah, I don't care. I don't care what it's spec'd with. $3,500, I can get with that. People can get with that.
One of my buddies just got one of those, the Delano, the $3,500 spec. It's honestly super juicy spec. I think this year's is SLX and DVO suspension. It's solid.
That's what it was last year, dude. I still have that same bike, and it's a great bike. What I would say to Lance is, like, dude, mid-level bikes. I rode a comp Stump Jumper Evo in Sedona. Put Cushcore in it, of course, and went to Sedona and followed Alex Petit Demange, the Red Mountain Goat, who's an absolute ripper. And he took me deep on some trails, and I just ripped them, and I had a blast on a mid-level bike. And some guy,
I think he paid under $4,000 for that bike.
He paid $4,000. Yeah, he paid $4,000 for that bike. And somebody asked me, and they said, dude, I think I can get one. Obviously I'm going to get it and tear all the parts off and put good stuff on. And I kind of sat for a little bit, and I couldn't deal with it. And I said, hey man, just for what it's worth, I rode that comp way harder than you'll ever ride your bike in your life. Sorry, dude, just stating facts, bro. You can get that stuff if you want, but you don't need it. Because that's the thing. Oh, I need this and this. I need all this better stuff. I said, you don't need that. You can buy it if you want it, but you don't need it. And that's what it comes down to is you can buy whatever you want for look or performance. But, dude, the best improvement, and I just heard this recently, the best improvement to any bike is a better rider.
I was going to say, I can jump on that forum and tell those guys, why don't you all give me $430 and I'll get you some PRs.
Yeah.
They'll keep coming.
We'll get you some PRs. So Rob, a couple people, Tom right there said he just got some Cushcore Pros about 10 minutes ago. Give us your quick just elevator pitch on Cushcore. We talked about it earlier, and I don't know that people still quite understand.
Highlight Tom's message.
Highlight Tom's message. There we go.
I can't see it.
Boom.
Okay, there we go. Guilty of that, Lance. Just ordered Cushcore Pros. Well, that's not one of those frivolous purchases, I will say, to start.
No, and I think Tom knows that, and we've talked about it. But just, I said tire protection, flat protection. I don't care about that.
So there's a ton of different flat defending items in the marketplace, and they are not all made equal. But one of the key features of the Cushcore, and it also is one of the features that makes it challenging for most to install it when they don't have any experience, is the fact that it fits very tightly around the rim, and that's intentional so that it holds the tire on like a beadlock on the inside. The other thing that's critical about a tire insert sitting tight against the rim is that if it gets out and touches the casing of the tire, you lose compliance of the tire casing. Another company sent me a product to try. Tannis Armor. Great, cool guys. They reached out. I said, sure, send them over. I'll try them. And the concept on paper seemed amazing to me, because one of the things out here where I live that's hard to deal with, even with Cushcore, is sidewall cuts. If you slice your sidewall, you're done. I mean, you're getting a flat. You can ride the bike out with a Cushcore on, but you're getting a flat. So the Tannis ones, they were like a thing that encased a tube in the center, but they went out against the tire. And so I put them on the bike, and I wasn't even 100 yards on the trail, and it felt like I was riding on ice. And I thought, what the hell is going on here? It felt like, those plastic big wheel tires? It felt like I had plastic big wheel tires on my bike.
That's pretty funny.
I let the pressure down so low that the tire was rolling off the wheel, and then I added enough pressure to fight that, and probably 50 feet into the first descent I tried to, I got a flat, and when I took it apart, it had it had pinched the tube, had like a 2-inch wide slice in it. And so immediately it was clear to me they're just not going to work. So I kind of reported back to them, and the guy I was talking to wanted me to talk with their engineers, but at that point I realized the concept is not going to work, and I didn't realize it. But now I know that because it's out against the tire, it causes the tire not to comply with the terrain.
Right.
And so you lose grip.
At that point, how much had you spent on Cushcore?
How much money? I spent $1,000.
Okay, so that I want.
In the beginning with Cushcore, I think I had 6 bikes.
Yep.
I put Cushcore in one of them, and my head exploded. From the handling benefits. I got them because I was racing an enduro and I got a front flat, and that caused me to lose the race. And I was like, dude, I can't believe that happened to me. And so somebody said, get Cushcore. So I got it with the intent of flat protection. I put them in the bike and I started riding it and just dropping the air pressure, and the grip that I developed was mind blowing. I'm like, there's no way this kitty litter has this kind of grip. Something's going on here. And it just kept getting better and better. And I was never riding for Pivot. I had to run Fox suspension, and I'm a Rockshox guy. I never was a fan of Fox at the time. And there would always be something about my suspension that frustrated me on every ride. And as soon as I started riding Cushcore, those things that annoyed me just disappeared. And when I met the guys from Cushcore the first time, one of the guys asked me, so do you notice your suspension working any different? And I was like, ooh, are you following me in my head? Crazy. And I said, matter of fact, yeah. And he says, yeah, that's part of the design. And so it shocked me, all the things that I learned about it that I was experiencing and just didn't really connect the dots. So the least of it is flat protection.
So that's enough. I think you said enough. I want to say thank you to William. I still do the super chat thing, still shocks me. So ass kicking class last weekend, dude. Yeah, it was a fun one. So
who got their ass kicked?
Nah, no, the trail got their ass kicked.
That's awesome, man.
So I appreciate that, dude. That was a fun one. So I want to show this one too, because I want Rob just to spend a few minutes talking about this. And then any more questions out there, 56 people, if you have a question, throw them out. I got a couple that we're going to cover, but why'd you ride the Trail 429?
So why I rode the Trail versus the Switchblade is because I don't own a Switchblade any longer. I bought the 429 when it, shortly after it came out. They let me demo one that was about 27 pounds. And I did not like that bike because the tires it had on it with no Cushcore, but I could tell that the bike had a lot of potential. So I went ahead and bought one and put it together with the parts that I like. And I love it. The thing's fantastic. Unfortunately, my wife loved it too. And because the bike has gotten, the reach has gotten so long, I went from a large to a medium, and a medium fits my wife in the compact setting. So that's my wife's new bike. And
you've commandeered it.
At that race, I was riding the Z Road, and I grenaded the back wheel. And because of the spec of the rear wheel, it wasn't like regular boost where somebody could loan me a wheel. Right. It's 142 with a single speed hub driver on it, and nobody had anything I could borrow. So
that has like a pinion gearbox on it, huh?
Yeah, pinion gearbox with a Gates belt.
Fancy.
So we're not going to get super into that.
We'll need a whole hour for that.
Yeah, don't get lulled in by the super cool picture on this Rich Drew guy's comment. I figured out I'd do this to show the question. What helmets do you guys like? This is one that I got on Instagram, and I'll give you my quick 2 cents. The Specialized helmets are great. I dig those a lot. 7 makes some helmets, and Fly are the same. I really like how those fit because they go a little bit lower. We had the Cali Maya I didn't think that was bad. I liked how that one fit. But I haven't worn, and I haven't worn a bunch of other helmets. The Smith Forefront was one of my favorites. I dug that. But what I can tell you right now is the new Project 23 from 7IDP, their full face helmet.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That fits well. But dude, I got one of those O'Neills, one of those cool looking O'Neill full face helmets, and that fits really well. So I'll wear that this weekend at Spider, Grayson. So yeah, we're going to be there at Spider. So what do you guys like helmet wise?
I'll go. I got this guy. It's a Smith. I'm trying to remember which one this is. It's a $70 option. I can't remember the name right now, but it's very affordable, and it's got it's the Convoy. The Convoy. It's got MIPS. It's super light, and it does the deed. So that's been my go-to. Because I'm kind of on a budget with helmets. I love the Forefront. I want one, but they're kind of high.
Yeah, dude, they're not cheap at all, but
no.
they're good.
Yeah.
Rob, what's your take on this? Because I know it's interesting.
So I've got an oddly misshapen head, and I'm constantly in pursuit of a helmet that won't fall down over my eyes.
Sure.
And I've not yet found something that's ideal, but I have the the new Euro MIPS. I can't remember the model of the helmet, but it's like
the 2-piece one that's really expensive.
Yeah, it's a really cool helmet. It was another one that's close to $200, but it's comfortable. The closure system is nice. And I like that helmet a lot. But then we were in Sedona, and Jen needed a new helmet, so we went into the bike shop, and they had the Bell 440.
Yeah.
And so she put that helmet on, and it looked awesome. And I was like, "That's an awesome looking helmet. Do you have that in a large?" And I put it on my head, and I'm like, "Oh, this thing's cool too." And actually, Alex was working there at the time, so I got a little bit of a deal on 2 helmets. Sweet. And so right now, I'm alternating between those 2 helmets.
Yeah, that's something we could go into a lot longer. I got a couple lasers that I'm going to try out, but I'm hoping to try out more helmets and give some more input. What about this?
Try Troy Lee, the new Troy Lee, but I tried it on, and it just isn't comfortable on my head.
A couple people are talking about that IXS FF trigger.
That's a comfortable helmet. I tried it on, but they didn't have my size.
Ah, okay.
So I would have bought it because that's one that doesn't tip. It doesn't feel like it will tip forward.
Yeah.
That's got to be annoying.
Dude, yeah. He, every time we ride, like he complains about it, and I look over and his helmet's down here.
Yeah, especially with the visors, it's just going to cover up his view.
The problem I had is when I broke my neck, the vertebrae fused, and so I can't lift my head up as high as I used to. So if the helmet comes down enough, I just can't see, and so I got the visor like this, and I just look like a clown.
Gotta do what you got to do, man.
So talk about this one real quick, Rob. Do you notice a difference between Super Boost and Boost? My answer is yes.
My answer is actually yes, too.
I tell you the difference that I notice. I mean, I think dimensionally, the lateral stiffness is effective.
It's there.
But the only bike I've ridden that's Super Boost is...
This is exactly what I was going for.
The thing I love about pivots that frustrates me about every other bike I ride that isn't even Super Boost is the seat stays and the chain stays swoop in to the spoke area and then back out. So where your heel comes around, you never make contact with the frame. Every other bike I have, the paint's missing on the side of the frame from my feet hitting it. Some make it, some a lot of contact, like really frustrating.
Yeah. So that, and I think that's a big key. There's a benefit from Super Boost. I think it's rigidity. They wouldn't do it if it wasn't.
Yeah, like out of the saddle stomping. If you're a guy who lays down a lot of torque, you get more stiffness in the wheel this way.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the lateral stiffness. Even I can tell that going from my Da Vinci Troy to my Polygon
triangle. It gets more stable, and even though it's not that noticeable, it's substantial. I mean, millimeters count when you're talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this was one best quiver killer 29er. Rob, I'll let you go first.
Well, I can only speak about what I've ridden, but I would say to this point of the bikes I've ridden, it's between the Switchblade and the Evo, the Stump Jumper Evo.
Yeah, it's funny because somebody in here talks about the Evo, but they say they like their YT Izzo. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I've got the Izzo. I have not really ridden it yet.
I would love to try both of those bikes.
I bought the Izzo built. It doesn't have the greatest parts on it, so I need to rob parts off one of my other bikes, and I just haven't chosen which one's going to go down for the count.
Yeah, that's just such a tough one to answer. I mean, for me, I think that's all relative. It's the perspective that you bring into it. Like, I mean, my quick answer right now is that spur. I mean, like for me and what I ride and how I can ride.
Well, I think that bike's amazing. I think that bike's amazing, and I think the trail is amazing. But if I could only have one bike, neither of those would be enough bike for me.
No, I agree. And again, that's why I think it comes back to perspective.
My description of a quiver killer means it's a bike that will cover the bike park. You can do an all-day backcountry ride on it, potentially try to put a light set of wheels on and race an XC race if you have to. And I think the Switchblade can do that. I think the Evo can do that. But I mean, I say I wouldn't take the trail to a bike park, but I did, and I was very impressed with it. It definitely did not let me down, but
yeah, I'm sandwiched between these two goons.
I'm frozen. Okay, so let's do this one. Go ahead, Rob. I know you have some things to say about this.
Dave Weagle.
So what I'll tell you is, and I'm gonna preface with I'm very biased. I ride on the trails where Pivot develops their bikes. But I've ridden other bikes with DW Link. Matter of fact, I've got a Revel Rascal in the garage, and that's not a DW. It's the Canfield, but it's very similar. I think for the kind of riding I enjoy, which is technical climbing a lot of the time and lifts. I consider myself a specialist in lifts. The last pedal stroke of a lift, you need a bike that's going to give you positive feedback and a lot of anti-squat so that you can kind of step off of that platform. And many other bikes don't support that way.
What, give one in particular that you have?
The Fazari. The Fazari does not offer that same support in the last critical pedal stroke on a lift. There are other places where that bike works great, and they don't develop those bikes where I live. So I have to imagine that their objectives were different when they developed that bike. But Pivots are made here. They work great here, and I have ridden them for a long time. So I really love them. I think they're great. But I do like a dual linkage bike. I started my racing career on a Niner, on a WFO. They're I'm trying to remember the name of their system.
CVA.
CVA, yeah. Constant virtual arc or something.
I had a Niner for a bit.
And now I'm riding a Propane, which is also their Pro 10 system is also a dual linkage, and it works fantastic. Also, like I mentioned, the Revel, the Canfield suspension design is similar. It works great.
Yeah.
So I think that when you know how to build those links and kind of alter the arcs,
yeah,
you can make a system that works better than a single pivot, in my opinion. Now, having said that, I've been really impressed, especially with the Stump Jumper Evo.
Yeah, I wanted you to talk about that.
They've got the kinematics figured out, and it's not the shock tune, because I've ridden that bike with multiple shocks and none of them came on that bike. So the setup, the way they've got the linkage designed is just really hits right where it needs to.
So let's end with this one. Ryan Paloma, rad dude, he's out of Oklahoma. Has been to a couple ride series events, done some private coaching. What about Rockshox suspension made you like it over Fox? So Rob, I want you to. Well, actually, you know what? No, let's do this. Jared, what's your take on this? Are you a Rockshox or
I'm a Rockshox guy, and I kind of agree with. We had this conversation when I was up there with you guys. I like how when Rockshox bottoms out, you don't really feel it. Same thing that Rob was talking about, and I also kind of like how, at least in my experience, I find that Rockshox suspension tends to be more like poppy and playful, whereas the Fox seems to be more oriented for like plushness. I don't know. I just gel well with Rockshox. Originally, I was very staunch Fox guy, but I think it's just because I was turned on by the Kashima. And then once the rose-colored goggles, once the rose-colored goggles came off on that, I started realizing how good Rockshox really was. I have the the Pike Ultimate right now on my bike, and I love that fork.
So Rob, give us keep it to 2 minutes.
So I started my career on Rockshox, and I always would be impressed at the fact that the fork, especially the Pike, when it came out, that fork would save my life on a daily basis. And you never had to do anything with it. You set the sag, and you went and rode it, and it just did its job and disappeared into the background. And when I started riding Fox, I noticed that the forks especially just had a ton of stiction. And I like to ride my bike low in the stroke, but when you bottom those things out, it's like somebody just hit you with an aluminum bat. I don't understand why even today, Fox hasn't figured out how to make the fork bottom out soft, because you can ride a Rockshox with like 30 less pounds than you should have. And the O-ring from the first 100 yards is bottomed, but you don't feel it banging on the bottom like that.
Yeah.
And internally, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing differently, because I haven't dug that deep into it, and my experience working on suspension was a long time ago. But what I know is how I describe Rockshox is if you take two speakers, magnet to magnet, and you start to push them together, the opposing force builds completely linearly with no notchy noticeable increase. It just gets harder and harder and harder till it almost won't go anymore, and then it pushes away.
Right.
And Fox, if you're riding on like a fire road with a camera on your Rockshox fork, it's never in one place. It's always moving with every subtle bump. If you do that with a Fox, it's in one place till it hits a bump and it moves, and then it goes back to that one place until it hits a big bump and then it moves. But it's not like you're floating on air. And so my experience is that their bushing pack has a lot of friction, and it's over damped. I always run absolutely zero rebound. I back out the compression completely. And what I will say is that the newest stuff, because I've got Fox on some of my bikes and Rockshox on a lot of bikes, but the newest stuff is substantially better than like 4 years ago. When I first started riding it, I really struggled with it. Matter of fact, in 2016, I was riding for Giant. I had 2 identical Giant reins, and I won a Fox X2 and I won a Fox 36 fork. And I was so stoked. So I put those on one of my bikes that was identical, and I went and rode a trail that I had the KOM on, and I freaking almost killed myself. And when I finished that ride, I came home and I took the stuff off and I sold it. And the thing was, if I had invested some time in setting it up better at that point, I'm sure I would have made it work, and it would have been fine, because when I was forced to have to ride on it, I had success on it. But the 2 championships that I won in BME were on Rockshox.
So Jared, I want to ask you real quick. Can we keep going past an hour?
Dude, no, yeah.
Okay. We'll start wrapping this up, but I was kind of scared.
No, it's not going to like kick you off. You can run it for however long you want.
I told Rob 2 minutes, and I think he heard 20 minutes. So let me tell you my take on it. And again, I'm not a guy that's incredibly in tune with my bikes. I'm cold trickle, dude. I ride them, and I always liked the way Rockshox felt. And when I started racing cross country, I had some Fox stuff, dude. I had a bike with a Fox 32, and it was the scariest thing in the world, because every time I'd come into a turn where I was like side loading the bike, I wasn't quite sure where it was going to go, because the stanchions twisted so much. It went wherever it wanted. Yeah, it was crazy. And that never ended. Like, to this day, it hasn't ended. Like, every bike I've had with a Fox 34, dude, like here when I ride, there's places where I load into a turn and it goes one way or the other. I don't know.
Yeah, it just understeers.
Do you feel that way still about the what about the 36s? Those are fine, or?
I can't, dude. I almost killed myself with a 36 on
the 36
Levo SL.
The 36, I never noticed any deflection on a 36 until I rode a 38. And then I got back on a 36 and I was like, wow, that thing's moving a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I would rather have a 38. Anything that I put a 36 on, I'd rather have a 38, unless it's a smaller bike. Like I'd take a 130, 36. Dude, here's a prime example. I think I'm getting a YT Izzo very soon, and that's going to come with a 34. Like I'm already scheming to try to find a way to get that 34 off because.
Have you ridden the step cast though? Because the step cast seems to be a little bit tougher than the old one.
Not for me.
Not for you? Well,
No.
you know what I think, you know what I was really impressed with was that Sid fork.
That's what I have, and that's what I was about to say.
I noticed absolutely no deflection in that fork compared to a Pike.
Dude, the 35 millimeter stanchions, and that's the thing is, it's like, why not go a little bit bigger to get rid of that? And again, I think it's all relative to who's supposed to be riding that bike. But again, if you take a step back, a lot of people are bigger, heavier people.
But question, so like, does bigger really even matter? If you say the 36 is flexing a lot, but you might ride a Pike or a Lyric, those are technically 35. That's smaller, but do you find that those are more rigid and stiffer?
Well, to be fair, anywhere I'm flexing a 36, I think a Pike or a Lyric would probably be doing the same thing.
I was just curious.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you that, like, when we were at Lingrock,
I never noticed it with a 36 until I rode on a 38.
I've never ridden a 38 or a Zeb, so I can't really comment.
The 38 is pretty fantastic. I haven't ridden a Zeb, but the 38 is really good.
The Zeb is awesome, but dude, the new 38 is legit. Like and the new X2 is amazing. Like I rode that Ransom with the 38 on it. Unbelievable.
Oh, that's Scott.
Yeah, dude. Unbelievable. It worked really good. So I think it comes back to some of it is personal preference and some of it's kind of what you're riding for and what you're after. And there's a lot of things.
A lot of my opinion was, a lot of my unhappiness came from forks. Like, because I was so happy with the Pike, the barometer was set very high when I moved to Fox, and it just was different. It wasn't right. It's not bad. I'm not saying their stuff is bad. It's fantastic.
If you look at Richie Rude,
you have a preference and you don't get what you prefer, you're going to wind up unhappy. But the shocks are awesome. Like the X2, everything I put that thing on makes the bike better. I love it.
Yeah. So let's do just a couple more because a couple of these are
well. Really that's my caveat for the quiver killer. It would be the Switchblade probably with an X2.
Ooh. So somebody kind of joked and they said you're dancing around. Your quiver killer would be the Levo SL. I mean that's a pretty solid answer. That's a hell of a bike, and I like those low powered e-bikes, if that's what you're going to call them, e-bike lights. I think they're awesome. Like the Levo SL is a killer bike because I can't tell you how many times I've got on it and ridden away from my house, and it's 20 minutes before I realize I forgot to turn it on. Like you could just go out and ride it. Like it's a big trail bike. The battery lasts.
I'm like, man, why don't I ride this bike more?
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, the battery lasts forever. It handles well. It's a great platform. I've heard the same thing about the Rise. I've heard the Rise is incredible, and of course,
I saw this morning on the Rise.
The Rise is a beautiful bike. You can't even tell it's an e-bike sometimes. Like I saw one out in Bentonville, and I was shocked. I was like, "Wait, that's the Rise." It just looks like a regular bike.
It's good. It's French. Enough said. It's a bicycle. And it's French. It's awesome.
What? The Rise?
Is that, or is it Spain?
Spanish.
Yeah, it's from Spain.
It's from the Basque region in Spain. Oldest bicycle company in the world.
They are quite knowledgeable on bicycles too. So I stand corrected, and lots of things from Spain I appreciate as well.
Yeah, dude, like churros.
Oh my God.
Like the Zona Zero trails.
Okay, here we go. Last one that I think we're going to end with because somebody asked about it. And dude, I've been asked a couple times, are high pivot bikes going to become the new thing?
They are.
They're the it thing right now.
Yeah.
I haven't ridden one to be able to say I think they're better, but I have concerns on several of the ones I've seen. When you look at the approach angle of the chain, you've got about 25% contact on the front chain ring, and with the power that guys are laying down, it seems like you're going to do some damage, whether it's breaking a chain because you're not distributing that force through, twice as many teeth, or whether it's
collapsing a chain
wear.
wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not to mention, I mean, the weight of basically 2 chains on the bike has to be something.
What?
The chain is twice as long.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying there was. I mean, that it's one chain that's twice as long, not 2
One
chains.
chain is just so long. It's like 2 chains.
Yeah.
Like 2 chains.
Yeah, like Forbidden, you have to buy 2 chains. I know that for a fact.
There's some dudes out there with
that. So from a financial standpoint, if it wears out chains in 50% of the time, and every time you got to put a chain on, you have to buy 2 chains, that's going to add up to a lot of money.
Yeah, but if it's a 75% better bike, you're still ahead of the game.
There you go.
I don't know math, but it sounds good to me.
Sure.
All right, let's do one more. I don't know, Christine Morgan. I don't know, Jared. Do you know who this is? That's a great looking picture, right?
I think so. Yeah, that's me on our wedding day. How awesome!
Look at you guys. She made a comment earlier, and I don't want her to think I skipped past it, but she said, "I don't have a question. It's just so cool to see Jared on here with the Drew brothers." It's cool. It's cool to have you on. Like,
it's awesome.
I dig it. We'll throw it out at the end to tell people. Do they want you to be on as the moderator? Like, I dig this moderator, especially you in the middle between us.
You want to be on as just a guy in the middle silent.
We're like, we need to go like this, Rob.
Stop.
So the trail you could ride over and over again and never get tired of it. Oh, that's a really tough one.
I have an answer. For me, at least, but I think she already knows it.
What is it?
Shrine Train, dude. I love that little trail. It's so good.
Oh, it's different.
Yeah, they changed it?
They completely redid it.
What did they do?
The whole thing's new, dude.
Well, what did they do?
Oh, my God.
Is it good or bad?
That's open to interpretation. So, dude, everything up to the rock drop-ins at the end, it's all new.
Well, what did they do? You got to tell me.
It's there's no more jumps. There's no more jumps. It's just a bunch of flowy, big wooden bridges and rollers. Yeah.
So they got rid of all the rock kickers?
All the rock kickers are gone, dude. It's one of the biggest dramas here right now.
Now, what trail would you like to ride?
Oh my God.
Like when you said Train, I was like, oh my God. Like,
that's terrible news. I'm bummed.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah.
I really liked it.
I'm gonna say, man, I don't know, dude. I'm at a loss. Like Rob's Trail National is a great one because you can't get tired of it. Like you would need your whole life to ride it.
Of joy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I don't know. Yeah, that's a good one. And actually, I'm gonna start thinking about that a little bit more. But
I have to get back to her.
Yeah, I will get back to you. Well, I like this. I think it went well. Rob got your picture and your audio sorted out a little bit. I don't know what it was, but it fixed itself. So it improved. So, all right, we're gonna end this, and I think the way we properly end one of these is Jared. Do you have anything that you want to talk about? Anything that you want to plug?
Not that I can think of offhand. I mean, obviously, I'm a content creator like you, Rich. If anyone's interested in following along, you can look up Cure Cycling on YouTube and come check it out.
Yes, you're making some good stuff. He's riding a lot of polygons, dude.
So I work with bikes online right now, so I get Polygon bikes sent to me, and they're pretty awesome. Really good bang for the buck options. If you're in that market, you should come check me out for sure.
So I have a guy.
Who was it that asked about why we don't ride that? Was that you?
No,
it was somebody else, and I guess we didn't answer that, but I'll answer anybody. I'll ride the bikes I get. Like literally, whoever sends me a bike or whatever bike I can get my hands on, I'll ride it. Mm-hmm. It's not like I turn down riding bikes. And again, dude, I'm not here to say a bike is good or a bike's bad. I can honestly say there's only been one bike that I've ridden that I've said nothing about because my experience wasn't great. And that's it. Like, that's what I'll come back to is if you see me riding a bike, what
bike was that?
Yeah, it's funny. If you see me riding a bike for some reason and I don't say anything or have a review about it, it's probably because I don't like that bike. I don't think it's my place to say a bike is bad. I want to just share my experience.
Now I'm gonna preach back to you. You don't have to say the bike is bad. You can find other wording to express your feelings, and just say, for the riding I enjoy doing, this bike doesn't suit me, and here's why.
It's not a good fit.
That's not a good fit. Compliment my style.
I couldn't muster that for this bike.
No,
like it was a bad experience. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to ask about this after the fact because I'm dying to know.
Yeah, dude, it's literally the only bike. It's the only bike that's ever felt like that. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Indeed.
Rob, do you have anything that you'd like to say? You have some content coming out soon.
Yes, I was wearing my media hat at the last Big Mountain Enduro in Bryan Head, Utah. Trails, if you haven't been to Bryan Head, Utah, trails are rugged. Take a full face, a lot of pads.
A lot of pads.
Yep. A lot of Nara.
Yeah, definitely. So
it's very high altitude.
We're excited. We're excited to see that. I am going to Spider Mountain this weekend, the return to Spider Mountain. We were supposed to go earlier this year and the great freeze. Yeah, so I'm excited to get back. We got a cabin, bringing Andy Lai down. We're going to make some content. We're going to do a little ride with Rich on Sunday. So
it's going to be sick.
Dude, have some tacos, have some coffee. Just going to talk about
paint project coming up.
Rob, are you coming to Outer Bike?
Wait a minute. Are you at liberty to discuss this paint project, Rob?
I'm at liberty to discuss it, but everyone will see my work soon.
Oh boy.
Are you coming to Outer Bike, Rob?
No. When is Outer Bike?
No.
In October.
Yeah.
End of October. Where is it?
Bentonville.
Here, Bentonville.
Oh yeah. End of October. No, we'll be doing our thing, right, Rich?
Nah, it's the weekend before that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
you guys are speaking in code here.
I'm going to be eating churros and Mickey Mouse beignets. That's what I'm going to be.
Yeah, Rob will be in Disneyland. So.
Oh, okay. Well, have fun, man.
I'm going to be dressed as Darth Vader or something. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I'm very happy for you.
Or Stormtrooper costume.
I wasn't done with my plugs, guys.
Sorry, buddy.
Spider Mountain this weekend. Then we're shooting some more. We got a really cool series with MTB Hopper coming up. So I'm very excited about that. 4 videos. We're going to pick one rider and we're going to coach them all the way through all 4 videos. So very exciting. I think it'll be a really cool real-time progression of a rider. Then the Oz Trails Off-Road, part of the Epic Rides series. So if you're not familiar with that, something you should look up. It's pretty cool. And I am excited to say I will be the announcer for the Oz Trails Off-Road. Welcome to the mountain bike capital of the world, the Oz Trails Off-Road. Are you ready? So, yeah, that's
Sunday.
And then Outer Bike after that. So,
sick.
All right, we'll wrap this up, and all 3 of us will get back together and see when the next one's going to be and how we can do it. In the meantime, go follow Jared, subscribe to his YouTube, Pure Cycling.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it, dude. We're gonna go. Rob, do you want to give your ending?
My ending?
Yeah, your closing. Rob, you're over and out. Jared, what's your ending?
Mine is the ride is the cure. You know,
the ride is the cure, and mine is peace out, dumpers. And someday I will tell you what that means. All right, everybody.
I've been dying to know.
We'll do it next time. How's that? Next
Sounds
live.
good, dude.
So then we got to if we can get 200 people watching,
he will reveal the meaning.
I'll reveal the meaning of peace out, dumpers.
You'll be part of the inner sanctum.
Yes. In the meantime, peace out, dumpers.
Later.
Later, guys.